I'm inside the coach's room with Petey. Hey, I'm Steve Peters, but you can just call me Petey. Today, on this episode of Inside the Coach's Room, we're going inside international coaches' rooms, and we're going to take a deeper dive into the Four Nations Face-Off tournament. I want to start with this, though, because there are tournament previews everywhere, and they're really good. I mean, you're talking in-depth reporters doing them, guys that are talking to the players, the coaches, and getting inside what's happening in the room. So there's a lot of different perspectives. And so before we even started, I wanted to say, why mine? Why the heck would you want to listen to what I have to say? So maybe you don't, and that's fine. You don't need to listen to what my opinion is. But a couple of reasons that I think my opinion is different than others is two reasons. One, I got an opportunity to put on Team USA jersey back in 1985. I played for the very first under-18 team, but it wasn't the under-18 team tournament back then. It was called the Select 17s. So I have had the opportunity to put on the sweater, so I know what that feels like to put on the USA and how important that is for individual players. Guys like Brian Leach were on this team. Capuano was on that team. Greg Brown was on that team. A lot of NHLers. Jimmy Carson, that was in the Gretzky trade, was on that team. Unfortunately, my career pretty much peaked when I was 17. And then the other reason I think my opinion is valid is I was the video coach for Team North America in the very last best on best tournament with NHL players. I was the video coach. You can see me there in the top right. So I was inside the locker room with McDavid, Matthews, and the rest of that team. So I'm going to give you the perspective of what it's like to play in a short tournament. And I know it's not this tournament, and I was just a video coach, but I was inside the room. So I got to see what those decisions were like and how those teams are developed, which is where I want to start. So you hear a lot, this is replacing the All-Star game. Why the heck is it out there? And the reality is this is the preparation for the Olympics. And this is the stage for the NHL to put their best players out there getting ready for the biggest stage in the world, and that's the Olympics. And best on best tournaments in hockey are rare. It's hard to get these guys together. You talk about the World Championships, great tournament, but there's still a majority of the good top players in the league that are still playing for the playoffs and trying to win a Stanley Cup. So this is great to have a best on best. And I've, you hear, hey, this is just an all-star game. Guys aren't going to put out any effort on this, and it's just going to be skating around. They're going to be 10-8 games. No, it's just not. This is different. When you put best on best, it's different. And players are going to take this. They're going to war. And I'm telling you, they're going to, when they hit the ice with their team sweater on and that puck drops, this is war. Now, when the game's not going on and you're sitting in Montreal and you got the day off, yeah, you're going to have fun. Guys will have their families there, their friends there. They're going to go out for pops. They'll go out with their other teammates on their teammates from their NHL team and on other countries' teams. They're going to go out and hang out. Absolutely, they are. There's going to be a heck of a lot of fun in Montreal. So if you're there in Montreal, they're going to be out and they're going to have fun because this is their break too from the daily grind of the NHL. But when they're inside the Centre Bell and they're ready to play, man, this is going to be unbelievable hockey. And I'll tell you this, if you watch the Tkachuk brothers play, if you don't think they're going to play with grit and determination and try to run somebody on the opposing team through the glass, then you just don't know the Tkachuks. So I do believe this is not an all-star game. They will have fun, but they're there to compete, which brings up the next part where we're going to talk about the rosters and how you compile these rosters. Hey, I've heard snubs, and this guy got snubbed, and that guy got, Cole Caulfield, Clayton Keller on Team USA. You can go out every team and say there's somebody that we thought might be there or could be there. But I'm telling you, the coaching staff and the general managers, they put out the players they think give them the best opportunity to win. They are trying to find the best fit for the players to play in a very, very short tournament. And understandable, there are some guys that are going to get left off. And saying snub is a real tough word because they are just there to provide a different role. You can't tell me that the guys in Team USA are thinking Vinny Trocheck over Clayton Keller. This is a great choice because of the fit. And Clayton Keller, if they needed another high-skilled guy to help add offense, they got that. They need Vinny Trocheck, a guy who's going to kill penalties, a guy that's going to be able to provide something in the bottom six of the lineup. So I do think that before you get started looking at these rosters, I do think that saying one snub is just, it's wrong. It's not a snub. This is the best hockey in the world, and they are looking to have the best fit on their team. So I completely understand how you might be upset if your player didn't get selected to compete in this tournament, but by no means is it a snub. These general managers are there to win. But let's look at the schedule. Let's look at how this thing actually breaks down. And this thing's going to start on Wednesday, February 12th. Canada plays Sweden. You're going to be on TNT, 8 o'clock Eastern. Followed up the next day, Thursday, USA plays Finland on ESPN at 8 o'clock. Then a doubleheader on Saturday on TNT. Finland and Sweden, and USA and Canada. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I said TNT. Those are on ABC. Those are ABC games, national ABC games on Saturday. Finland, Sweden, and the USA, Canada. The rivalry games on Saturday, followed up in Monday in Boston as the tournament moves to Boston. Canada plays Finland, and Sweden plays USA. Both of those games on TNT with the championship Thursday on ESPN with the teams clearly to be determined. The teams with the best 2 record on this round robin will play for the championship on Thursday night. I think if we go any farther, we've got to talk about the rosters and who's on these teams and who to look for and how these teams are built. And you got to, when you talk international hockey, you got to start with Canada. You just have to, because Canada is so dominating internationally throughout the years, the Olympics, World Championships, World Cups. Well, not all World Cups, but some of them. So let's go to Team Canada and look at some of the people on this roster that I think are going to be incredibly important. And we talk about the top line right now with Connor McDavid, Sam Reinhart, and Mitch Marner. And these lines will change. And they may change before they play on Wednesday night. But they absolutely, most certainly will change as the tournament goes on, because it's such a short tournament. You don't have time for lines to gel or, hey, let's wait and see if this combination works. Dude, if it's not working, you mix it up now, because the runway is so incredibly short. And I go back to my time at Team North America. Our very first practice, Austin Matthews was 18, had yet to play an NHL game, just got drafted a few months prior. It was a big deal. These games are going to be in Toronto, and he was a Toronto draft pick. So it's a big deal. Austin Matthews was the 13th forward on that team going into practices. 13th forward, was not in the lineup. Come game 1, he's on the top line with Connor McDavid. So that changed in 3 days. So these lines are clearly going to change. For Canada, this is about their offense. This is a team that's going to be high skilled. They can transport the puck up and down the ice. They're going to try to play with pace, try to play with speed, and they're going to try to overwhelm you offensively. Defensively, it's a little different. You've got some really talented players. And I've said this before. I think the most talented two-way defenseman in the National Hockey League is Cale Makar. And I think he is the guy that's going to drive them from the back end offensively. And surprisingly enough, he's playing with his line mate, teammate, Devon Toews. So they are going to be comfortable with each other. They're going to know how to transport the puck up and down the ice very well. I think that pair being together is going to be key for this team. You look through this lineup, though, when we talk about fleet of foot and speed being the name of the game at the Four Nations Cup, there is a concern as Drew Doughty got added to this lineup. Does Drew Doughty play with the pace that can keep up with these lineups? I don't know. I tell you what Drew Doughty does bring, though. He brings some grit, determination, and experience. And I wouldn't want to be in front of the net with Drew Doughty. And I know he is going to bring his compete level. So it's a good mix on the back end. They have the speed and skill, but you've got a guy like Doughty that can mix it up in front of the net with a player like Tkachuk. And I think you're going to see wars between Tkachuk and Doughty on Saturday night. The other question mark for Canada is their goaltending. Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues reported to getting the start for Team Canada on game 1. This is an area where Canada usually dominates. And you talk about their domination with goalies like Marc-Andre Fleury, Martin Brodeur, Patrick Roy. Like, it's Canada goalies. And that's what drives the bus in Canada. I don't know if you can say that anymore. And Jordan Binnington and Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill's had his ups and downs this season in Vegas. So I'm not sure the goaltending in Canada is the strength of their game. The strength of Canada is going to be able to play with speed and pace and their offensive abilities with their top end offensive players. That's where Canada drives the bus. So let's go to Team USA and see what they have on this team. I think one of the things on this team is you're going to see some players offensively that you might not know. Like Kyle Connor's a guy playing up in Winnipeg, tears it up, but teams don't get to see Winnipeg very often. Fans don't see Kyle Connor on national TV, on ESPN and TNT very often. So you might not know Kyle Connor. He is a gifted goal scorer that when the puck is on his stick, he has an opportunity to score. Great shot, good mobility, nose for the net, and putting him with Tkachuk and Eichel to start this tournament off, this line is a threat to score when they're on their ice. They have everything. And Eichel, people talk about his speed. Man, he's sneaky fast. You watch Eichel through the neutral zone and you go, gosh, he's not moving. But it's a skating style and the way he moves. Dude is moving, but he doesn't look like it. This line is going to be dangerous. And Matthew Tkachuk's going to be a pain. He's going to be a pain for a lot of defensemen around this tournament. He's going to play with physical. He's going to play with pace, and he's going to get to the net. And this line is going to be difficult to play against. And you look against this offensive top 12 for the Team USA, they're very deep. But as you get down to the bottom of the lineup, one thing they have is they've got guys that are used to playing a different role. Like you talk about Brock Nelson, Vinny Trocheck, JT Miller. Those are guys that know how to play with a little bit of grit. And if you tell them they're playing in a third line role or a bottom six role, I think they can handle that. So I think this is a team that's really tried to be built as a team and looking for their strengths. And we're going to get to some players to look for later, but I do like the top 12 forwards for Team USA. I think they're very comparable. I don't know if they have the speed of a McKinnon and a McDavid, and that could be, I don't think it's an issue, but I don't think they have the pace and the speed of Team Canada. But you look at their back end, Slavin, Fox, Werenski, McAvoy, Hanifin, Faber. This is an outstanding pair of six. I like this as the best top six in the tournament. If they're all playing well, you've got guys that are incredibly good defenders like Slavin and Brock Faber and Zach Werenski, two-way players, but you got guys that can transport the puck. Like Adam Fox, if he is on his game, can be an outstanding puck mover. And this is the strength of Team America is their net minding. Their goaltending for Team USA with Connor Hellebuck and Ottinger. Oh, by the way, Swayman is their number 3 right now. That's an incredibly strong roster for the Team USA. And I do think this is a really good hockey team. And we talk about how good the depth is on all of these teams. It's going to be great hockey. And if you don't know these rosters, make sure you look them up because I'm showing these. These are the lines combinations I got were off Daily Faceoff, dailyfaceoff.com. You can see the jerseys. By the way, I'll tell you this. As a video guy in the National Hockey League, dailyfaceoff.com, huge resource. We always would go there. I went there personally every morning to find the lines of our opponents because they're updated constantly with the latest reports from people that are actually on the ground at the rink. So if you're trying to keep up with your favorite team and their lines, make sure you jump on to dailyfaceoff.com plus their news. And they've got stats. There's a lot going on there. Say hi to Frank when you stop by Daily Faceoff. Let's head over to the Swedes next. Swedes. One of the things when you look about the Swedes and the Finns, on paper, I don't think these two teams are as good as Canada and the U.S. I just don't on paper. But they're approaching this a little differently. They've got coaching staffs that are with the federations. They're not NHL coaches. They are federation coaches from Finland and Swedish federations. So they have been preparing for this all season. They've been working on scouting reports for this all season. They've been working on these opponents all season, the rosters all season. This is all in for Team Sweden and Finland. When you look at Canada and the US, all of the general managers and coaches have other jobs. They're working in the NHL. Like Cooper's, Cooper was breaking down scouting the Florida Panthers a week ago. He's not worried about Team Sweden. So I do think that might give them advantage. And we talk about coaching and systems, and I don't know if that might be the one edge that Sweden and Finland have. Not that their coaches are better, but they're just more focused on this international game for a longer period of time. And the coaching staff has worked together longer. You look at the NHL coaches on Canada and US, and they're just getting together for a few days. And everybody's got to sort out responsibilities. Who's PK? Who's running the D? Hey, I think we should do things this way. A lot of voices in that room. Sweden and Finland are all on board. This is the system we're going to play. Here's how we're going to communicate. Might be their advantage. But when you look at this team, This is a team that's got skill. I mean, it's Pedersen, Forsberg, yeah, and Kempe. Kempe's one guy I talked about yesterday on the Hockey PDO cast. Adrian Kempe's another player that people don't get to see as often because he's playing in LA and he's playing on the West Coast with these late starts. He's a heck of a hockey player. I expect this to be a breakout nationally for Adrian Kempe. The kid can fly, gets to the net, really good hands, great offensive upside, plays both ends of the ice. I don't think people know exactly what he is. If you haven't been able to catch the LA Kings recently, keep an eye on Adrian Kempe. He's a guy that I think is going to be very good for this Swedish team, and he's going to be one of the offensive zone drivers of Team Sweden. We talked about Lucas Raymond yesterday on the PDO cast too, a guy, young player that's been outstanding on the power play for Detroit this season. I think he's going to be another key player for this Swedish team. But then you got to look at their back end. Hedman and Brodin. Jonas Brodin, the Minnesota Wild, is one of the better defending defensemen in the National Hockey League. Another unsung guy that pair, when they're on the ice, they're going to be hard to play against. They are going to get a lot of big minutes against some of the best players in the world. And this is going to be a key for this team. They have to defend well, because they're going to have to take the onslaught of what the Americans and Canadians can give up. And then you look at the other back end players. Look at Gustav Forsling. I'm a huge Forsling guy. When you talk about two-way defensemen in the National Hockey League, he is right up there. So I do think the strength of this team is going to be their defending. They got Allmark and Gustafsson in net. Allmark looks to be getting the start. To start this series, their goaltending is solid. And I think that Gustafsson's had an outstanding year at Minnesota. And I do think that they have the goaltending that can absolutely compete in this tournament. But I do think they're going to have to defend extremely well, because I'm not sure if they have the offensive power that you're going to see from the teams coming in from North America and USA and Canada. They have guys that can score, but I don't know if they have the 1, 2, 3, 4 punch that you're going to see on those other teams. Let's round this out with Team Finland. Again, this is a team that's decimated on injuries. You lost Miro Heiskanen on the back end. This team is not, we go to paper, this is difficult, but Team Finland always shows up to these international competitions. The coaching staff, as I talked about, has been preparing for this. They have been pre-scouting for this. This is a unified group. Their systems will be dialed in, and this team will compete because they have a lot of guys that play that way. And it starts with their captain, Sasha Barkov. When you look at him from the Florida Panthers, he can provide offense, but he is the best award-winning two-way player in the game right now. And he is going to be there to defend and help offensively. The question I have with Finland is, when you look at this roster, it's a lot of guys that support their teams offensively. Barkov is getting the puck to Reinhart. Rantanen is getting the puck to McKinnon, formerly, and now he's getting it to Aho. Sorry about that for Canes fans. But these are guys that help in the secondary scoring of their team. And so you're going to have to see a guy step up offensively. Patrick Laine is clearly a guy that's going to help drive the bus offensively. Rupe Hintz is the guy they're going to need offensively. So they do have some offensive pieces, but these are a lot of guys that are the playmakers for their team. So they're going to have to find the finishers. And I would look to Sebastian Aho to lead the way in goals for Team Finland. On the back end, decimated with injuries. They've lost 3 defensemen already. They've got a lot of stopgap guys in this lineup. This could be the downfall of Team Finland. We talk about the speed and the skill of the other teams in this tournament. You've got to have deep defense. And I'm not sure if Team Finland has the 6 defense that can hold the gate. And their goaltender, Saros, is going to have to be absolutely lights out to help propel this team into the finals, because I'm not sure on paper if Team Finland has the juice to get them there. So I do think the other thing to look at when you look at this tournament is the special teams. And one of the things with special teams is how hard it is to get a power play group, not just put it together. Well, you look at these rosters and you go, oh my gosh, there's 15 power play guys. What are we going to do? So I do think just even putting the 5 guys on the ice is a challenge. Who goes where? There's a lot of egos in that room. And all 4 of these rosters, there's a lot of egos. You're not going to defer to too many guys in any of these rooms. So these guys want to play, and they want to be on the ice. So the first decision is who you're going to put out there. Then it's how you're going to play. The best power plays in the league are guys that have played together for 3, 4, 5 years, where their core is together year after year and rep after rep. So they know where they're going to be on the entries. They know where they're going when the puck gets loose and who's going to retrieve the pucks. Power plays are about repetition. And unfortunately for these teams, you don't have that. And I think that's going to be the biggest test for these teams. And I go back to Team North America, and I know the focus for those first few days of practice was the special teams, was the power play and the penalty kill. And I remember Team North America having a difficulty finding penalty killers, because back then you're looking at all these guys were 22 and they were the offensive players of their team. And JT Miller was one that I know, Coach Tippett, who coached the penalty kill, put aside as, hey, he's going to kill penalties. And that was kind of his mentality, and he knew he could handle that job. But then it was, hey, anybody want to kill penalties? And that's not, I'm not kidding. That was asked in the locker room, hey, does anybody in here want to try killing penalties? And Dylan Larkin raised his hand, and he got the opportunity to kill penalties. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins got to kill penalties, and guys that you see now. I think now that the trend is more offensive players kill penalties. I think you see that a lot across the NHL. I think those players have a high hockey IQ. They clearly have the pace to keep up, and they can also provide you offense the other way. But that wasn't the way it was 8 years ago. Offensive players played that. You've got the bottom six guys were filling on the penalty kill. So I think that's going to be an issue for these teams. And when you look up and down the lineup, who's going to kill penalties versus who's going to be on the power play? And I think the power plays are going to be a huge part of this tournament. So can you get up to speed that quickly, and how and whose power play is going to be good? I tell you, these power plays are going to be simple. Yeah, everybody knows the drop pass. Everybody's going to have the drop pass, and everybody's going to have a quick up breakout. I don't think you'll see more than 2 breakouts for any team. And then in zone, it's going to be simple. It's going to be simple. Get your guys to your spots. You look for the one-timers off either flank and the defenseman shooting. So let's take a quick look at what some of these power plays might look like. These are what the projected power play units look like on daily face-off just this morning on Wednesday prior to the first game. My goodness, are there some very good, talented hockey players out here. And I think the best of the group on the power play goes to Team Canada. And they've got Sidney Crosby, McKinnon, Reinhart, Connor McDavid, and Cale Makar reportedly on their first power play. And the biggest reason that I think this is the best power play is they've got 5 guys that are all playing in their natural spot where they play on the National Hockey League team. With Cale Makar at the top, you've got McDavid all over. Crosby's going to be down low by the net. Nathan McKinnon off the left, and Reinhart in the bumper. So I think guys are going to be extremely comfortable. And now you've got to go, okay, where's your threats? Like, Sidney Crosby on the one knee, tap in down by the blue paint. That's hard. Somebody's got to watch that play. Reinhart in the bumper. You can have 2 guys on him. He's still going to score. That Reinhart, unbelievable third. Cale Makar can walk in and wire that wrister from the top of the circle and beat a goalie clean. McDavid is McDavid. He's going to distribute the puck from all over the ice. I think he's the guy you're going to have to keep your eye on, because he's going to create openings with his movement. And then Nathan McKinnon is going to come downhill with his speed. This power play is elite, and it's dangerous if they can click and if they can find that chemistry right away. And I do think that will be not an issue for Team Canada, but that's what you have to look out for Team Canada. And then Team USA, Kachuk, Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, Adam Fox, Jack Eichel. They're going to miss Quinn Hughes on this. Quinn Hughes, phenomenal puck carrying defenseman at the top, ability to walk that blue line and change angles and distribute the puck from the top. Adam Fox, extremely good defenseman, and he can do all of those things, but Quinn Hughes is just special. He's special at his ability to handle the puck and move the puck and create opportunities from the top on a power play. He is just different. This power play, very good players, and all guys that can score on a power play. The funny thing for me is Jake Gensel, who is the top American player in the National Hockey League with goals on the power play with 13, is currently not on either power play. So I do find that interesting. And Clayton Keller from Utah is the second most points in power plays for an American, is also not even in the tournament. So we'll see how these guys gel. I do not think that this power play for Team USA is, I don't want to say is as good, because that's not fair, but the extremely good power play and very talented players. I'm just wondering about their fit. I'm wondering if they have the ability, and you talk about how things fit together. I'm wondering about their fit. And are they going to be able to gel as quickly? And then you go to Team Sweden, because Zibanejad, Eriksson Ek, Lucas Raymond, Victor Hedman, and William Nylander. Again, this one's going to be interesting to me because Zibanejad, you've got him with the one-time shot. Eriksson Ek is not as well known coming out of Minnesota, but he's a guy that's going to distribute the puck extremely well, and he's going to be a guy that can get the puck off his stick quickly to move this around. Lucas Raymond in Detroit's a guy that's been scoring goals on the power play. Hedman's an elite power play player, and William Nylander's another guy that can score on the power play. This might be the second best power play in this tournament when this is all said and done. I think Hedman at the top is going to be the key to this power play. And can Zibanejad get going offensively? Then you go over to Finland with Sebastian Aho, Ruppe Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, Patrick Laine, and Sasha Barkov. 5 forwards. And we talked about their defense and how injured they are. Miro Heiskanen would clearly be at the top of this power play if he was here, but he is not. So you've got 5 forwards. This is going to be a challenge for Finland. Can they get 5 forwards to gel right away? Can they get 5 forwards on the same page? And with the quick penalty killers on all of these teams, the high-skilled guys that are trying to look for turnovers high in the zone and can get pucks going the other way, it's really nice to have a defenseman back there playing one-on-one because the forwards tend to play that a little bit different. And forwards aren't quite as familiar with playing those one-on-ones, their stick position, their body positions. When do I attack? When are my strike points? So I'm worried about Finland and their ability to give up potentially some shorthanded chances going back the other way. Let's look at defense. We talked about how important defensemen are in this tournament, and we talked about Canada with the combination of Taves and Makar. It's going to be interesting. I think the best 6, and I said this before, I think the top 6 in this tournament is Team USA. I think they're the deepest with the most offensive upside, and I do think they have guys there that can defend, and Finland, unfortunately, finds himself at the bottom, but that's just due to injuries, and that's going to be a problem. But there are other players in this tournament to keep your eye on. Drew Doughty, we talked about his speed. Can he be the physical presence that makes the difference? Shea Theodore for Team Canada has been an offensive powerhouse in Vegas right now. His ability to drive offense from the back out has been elite this year. Josh Morrissey, a guy that people don't know, is the quarterback on the top of the best power play in the league right now with the Winnipeg Jets. So this is a very offensive gifted Canadian group as well. We'll see how they are able to handle the Americans' speed. When you go down to Sweden, there's the guys always said like Jonas Brodin that people might not know as well. But Gustav Forling, who didn't practice in the first day, but is now back in the lineup for Sweden, I think he is going to be a huge factor in this tournament for Team Sweden's defending. And then my favorite, if you've ever listened to me talk, Erik Karlsson and his ability to keep up 8 years removed from the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. Erik Karlsson, I'm concerned about him handling the speed. And when he's got to defend, if I'm the head coach of USA and Canada, when I see number 65 on the ice, my top, I tell you, Connor McDavid's going to pull his groin getting over the ice. Like, I want Connor McDavid's line with that speed. I want Nathan McKinnon on the ice. I want them blowing the doors off the 65 car. I really do. And the concern is Erik Karlsson's ability to handle that speed through the neutral zone. Offensively, again, still, you don't worry about Erik Karlsson offensively. He's going to distribute the puck. He's going to get the puck up the ice, and he's going to be able to advance the puck, and he's going to be a guy that's going to help offense for Team Sweden. But this tournament's going to be about defending, and we'll see if Erik Karlsson can handle the speed of those top 2 teams. Because Sweden, when they're the home team, they're going to get Hedman and Brodin and Forsling and Rasmus Dahlin out there as often as they can against those top units. And then when you look at Finland, I'm just thinking Finland's outmanned with their injuries right now. They are going to compete. This is a team that competes extremely hard, and they are a group that's going to be well coached, and they're going to play within their system. But I still like that top 6 from Team USA. I tell you what, this tournament's going to be exciting. We talked about all the skill up front, and we talked about how they defend. But in a short tournament like this can all come down to one thing: which goaltender gets hot for 7 days? Which goaltender can be the best in this tournament for 7 days? And again, I go back to Team North America, and the 3 goaltenders for Team North America were John Gibson from Anaheim, Connor Hellebuck from Winnipeg, and Matt Murray from Pittsburgh. And Matt Murray was just fresh off of winning the Stanley Cup. He becomes the starting goalie. Now, when he plays Team Russia scores 3 quick goals, and that that pushed Team North America out of the medal round. The only loss that Team North America had was against Team Russia. And unbeknownst to everyone, Matt Murray had a hand injury, had a broken thumb. And she struggled for about a minute and a half of that game, but that minute and a half was about enough for Team North America to not continue on in this tournament. John Gibson went in for Team Sweden, gets the game in overtime, gets the big win. Unfortunately, not enough to propel them. My point in all that is goaltending matters. And who you play in these games matters. And who starts in these games matters, because you can't give up the bad goal. And if you make the big save when you need to make the big save, you can propel your team to the next level. And that's where Sweden and Finland potentially can help their cause. So let's look at the goaltenders in this one. Team Canada, we talked about Binnington and Hill. I just don't think their goaltending is their strength in Canada. Now, has Binnington been outstanding? Set the all-time win record in St. Louis this season? Absolutely. Aiden Hill won a Stanley Cup. Like, these are good goaltenders. I just don't know if they're the cream of the crop in this tournament at this time. Are they playing their best hockey right now in this moment in 2025? But they're both good enough and they are both skilled enough to go on a short run, because Aiden Hill has done it. When he put his playoff run together, when Vegas wins the Stanley Cup, he was elite for weeks. He just has to do it for 7 days. And then you go across to Finland. And again, this is, with defensively, I don't think they're as strong. And in net, you're looking at UC Saros to carry the load. Hasn't had the season he wanted. UC Saros has struggled this season. The Nashville Predators have not had a great season. So I don't know if the goaltending for Finland is going to be what they want it to be going into this tournament. Having said that, Saros has also shown his ability to put streaks together when he can play outstanding. And he's a guy, when he is at his best, is outstanding and elite in this league. And with country pride on the line and getting a lot of shots, because he's going to see a lot of rubber, might be enough to make Saros be one of the better players in this tournament. You go to Team Sweden, Markstrom's out, so you're looking at Allmark and Gustafsson, both very good goalies. These are guys that when they're on their game, they can play. I think this is a very good tandem. I think both of them can play. Gustafsson might not be as well known out of Minnesota, but he's a guy that can definitely play. But the best goaltending in this tournament, on paper, statistically right now, lies with Team USA. And Hellebuck and Ottinger and Swayman waiting in the wings. Hellebuck has been outstanding this season, putting together Vezina-type numbers. And Ottinger, again, you can see him putting strings together. Team USA is outstanding at the back end and their ability to stop the puck. And I do think that's going to be a big strength of this team. Lastly, before I get off on the rosters, I do want to talk about some players to look for that we might not have mentioned yet. With Team Canada, I think Seth Jarvis is the guy that you're going to keep an eye on. Again, he's a guy that you don't think of in that same breath as McDavid and Matthews. Well, look out for Seth Jarvis. Seth Jarvis he plays with a little bit of an edge to him, and he's a guy that you're going to look for to maybe get under the skin of a guy like Tkachuk. And you can maybe draw a few penalties with Seth Jarvis. Seth Jarvis is also going to play in all areas of the ice. He's going to be a player that you're going to see get some power play time, 5-on-5, and could potentially kill penalties, which brings me to the next pair in Canada with Hagel and Cirelli. Two teammates, familiar with each other in when they were in Tampa Bay together. And I do think this tandem, because of their familiarity with each other and their ability to kill penalties, I think this tandem is going to be a key to Team Canada and their ability to kill penalties. And I think this is another unsung group to keep your eye on, because I think they're going to get a lot of important minutes. And again, they know each other well from their time in Tampa. So this is going to be an interesting pair. Keep your eye on them in the lower six, because you're all going to hear about McDavid and McKinnon. Keep your eye on Hagel and Cirelli. Team USA, Matthew Tkachuk. Can Tkachuk get under the skin, and can he play the physical game without getting in the penalty box? The key for Team USA is to be able to play on that edge with guys like JT Miller and Tkachuk and his brother Brady. Can they play on the edge without getting in the penalty box? Because you cannot be shorthanded against some of these power plays. With Matt Boldy, another guy to keep your eye on, you might not know out of Minnesota, has become a very, very good offensive player. He's one of the guys that's been able to feed Kiprusoff and help Kiprusoff get his numbers, but Matt Boldy is absolutely coming into his own. He's a guy that can get to the net. He's got a very good shot. Offensively, he's a guy to watch out for, number 12 on Team USA. And on the back end, it's Brock Faber, Minnesota, another Minnesota guy. Again, it's a guy coming up through the ranks that surprisingly competed in the Calder race with Connor Bedard. And now you look at it, his ability to defend, but his ability to get pucks to the net. One of the better two-way defensemen, unsung defensemen in the league. So keep an eye on Brock Faber. With Sweden, it's Pettersson. Elias Pettersson for me. He's got an opportunity to shake off all of the locker room concerns in Sweden right now. Or excuse me, in Vancouver. Get away from him. There's not one Vancouver teammate in this locker room. It's all fresh. You can drop all the weight off your shoulders and just go play. He has to play. This needs to be a springboard for his second half in Vancouver. He has to come into this tournament and be the offensive leader for Team Sweden because he hasn't been that for Vancouver, and he needs to be. And this could be an opportunity for him to finally get back on track offensively and find his groove before he goes back for the playoff run in Vancouver. Another player to watch out for with Team Sweden is Gustav Forsling. And I don't know if you can even say he's underrated anymore, because Gustav Forsling, everybody knows now that he's won the Stanley Cup, his ability to play both ends of the ice and his speed is going to be imperative and be able to defend against some of these top players on all of these teams. He's got the ability. He surfs, meaning he defends skating forwards. He's going to have good stick on puck, and he's a guy that's going to be integral in transporting that puck up the ice once that turnover has happened in transition for Sweden. I'm a huge Gustav Forsling fan, and I do think he's going to be one of the keys to this tournament for Sweden. For Finland, it's their top line. It's how quickly can players, right now it's Lehkonen, Barkov, and Rantanen. And I said this before, these are guys that can put off on offensive numbers, but they're the guys that are the playmakers for the guys around them. They're going to have to take charge as a top line, and somebody's going to have to drive the offense. Somebody is going to have to be the goal scorer for this team, Finland. And can these guys that are guys that help the guys on their team be better, can one of them take the big step and be the guy that leads the way for Team Finland? And the last one I had on Team Finland, and I've already talked about UC Soros. Soros has to be the best player on Team Finland if they're going to have a chance. He's going to have to be their top player. He is going to have to be their MVP if this team is going to advance to the finals. Now, a couple of things to talk about before we end this preview. I want to talk about the rest versus rust. You see some of these teams, the Florida Panthers have 9 players in this tournament. They're going to play very, very meaningful games, very heavy games, and they're going to get practice time, and they get this high-speed game time, and they go to the Washington Capitals, competing for the top spot there in the Eastern Conference, and they have not one player from the Washington Capitals. So they've got 8 days of rest. Guys sitting on the beach, putting their feet up, resting their injuries. So which one's more important? Well, I don't know. But I tell you this, the management and coaching staff for the Washington Capitals, who have no players in this tournament, are saying this rest is going to be outstanding for us. We're going to get guys refocused and get a reset button as we chase the second half of the season in the playoffs. This is great for us, exactly where we want to be. But then you talk to Bill Zito down in Florida, and they're going to tell you, this is great for our players. They're going to play at a high speed, high intensity. They're going to stay on their game, and they're going to keep that momentum rolling right into the playoff stretch at the end of this season for the Florida Panthers. And I guarantee it, you listen, and you're going to hear those exact messages from both of those teams and whatever your team falls in between. And the only other team with 0 is San Jose. So I don't know if they're going to be making the playoff run. Sorry, San Jose this year, soon, but not this year. So I want you to listen for that when you hear the press conferences from the coaches and managers and players from the teams that have a lot of players in this tournament versus the ones that don't. The reality probably falls somewhere in between. There's always a fear of injury in a tournament like this and someone being hurt. And these are some of the top players. Well, the top players on all of their respective NHL teams, and you don't want to see injuries. You hope that doesn't happen, and everybody comes through this tournament healthy. I think that's the most important point for the NHL. They want to see good games, and they want to see everybody come through this healthy. So I do think that's important. As for the guys with injuries, and you saw Pietrangelo drop out, and take care of your injuries. Get healthy, get better. Quinn Hughes needs to be there for the Vancouver Canucks to make their playoff run. You know they want to be there. You know they want to be playing in this tournament, but they can't. So hopefully the guys that are hurt for their respective teams get that rest that they need to get healthier. But I do think there is some benefit to playing, and most importantly for goaltenders. For goaltenders to go 2 weeks without seeing a competitive puck and seeing that speed and pace, I do think it's important. So I do think the goaltenders in this tournament will have a better opportunity to stay sharper on their game as they come out of this break. And last, I want to talk about how important the bragging rights are for this. This is the big tournament going a year before the Olympics. This is a big deal. These are guys everybody wants to play on their Olympic team a year from now. This is the precursor, the start to that. This is the start to making that roster. If I perform well in this tournament, I've got a leg up in making that team 12 months from now. This is an incredibly important tournament for these players. And you talk about bragging rights, not just nationally, because it's funny, when I played in college, and I wasn't very good. I'll tell you that right now. I was not a very good college player. I played at the University of North Dakota. And when I went in there, as a freshman, the other goaltender that came in as a freshman was a guy named Eddie Belfour. Came in from Manitoba. By the way, he's top 5 in wins in the National Hockey League, and he's also in the Hall of Fame. But when we played Can-Am games, and that was during Thanksgiving and Christmas break, when it was Team USA versus Team Canada, I will tell you, I played my best hockey because it mattered. And it was a scrimmage practice between college kids, and it mattered, and it got bloody, and there were fights. This matters. When it's country versus country, it matters. When you're putting on the East versus West at the All-Star game, buddy, doesn't matter. Pacific versus Central, who cares? HK, does not matter. But when you're putting your country jersey on, it matters. This is going to be great hockey. The bragging rights inside your room. The Florida Panthers, you don't think Tkachuk is going to go in there and give it to Reinhart if he wins, or Barkov's going to give it to everybody if he wins? That Florida room is going to be interesting. I know they'll buy in quickly, and they've got a great team. But the bragging rights inside your locker room in the National Hockey League are huge. This is going to be a big deal. I can't wait to watch. Now, do I need to do a prediction? I don't know if anybody cares what I think. I'm an American, wore the Team USA sweater, so pretty obvious where my loyalties lie. And I'll tell you this, being in this business inside a locker room in the National Hockey League and being an American, I was in the head coaches I had were Dave Tippett, Canadian, Rick Tocchet, Canadian, Wayne Gretzky, Canadian. They were Canadians. And I tell you what, whether it was World Juniors, Olympics, World Championships, it didn't matter. It was Canada versus USA in the coaches room. And I rarely had any support. So for this one, if all things go well and Hellebuyck can be the guy I think he can be, I'm going to give the Americans the slight edge over the Canadians in the final in this one. Well, I hope you watch. I hope everybody tunes in to this. I hope you put on your TVs, TNT, ESPN, ABC, watch these games. They're going to be outstanding hockey games. You're going to see the best players in the world, and you're going to find players that you don't know. You're going to see different NHL players from different teams that you don't follow. So tune in, watch the games. And root for your country, root for the guys that played for your team. And it's okay if you root for Sweden and Finland. If your best player on your NHL team plays for those teams, that's fine. Just watch the games and see really, really, really good hockey, because I think this hockey over the next week is going to be elite. Well, thanks for coming inside the coaches' room with me today. Thanks for taking a little time to go inside the international coaches' rooms. And as always, I'm Petey, and we'll see you at the rink.